What is up, people? Sorry about the shakiness of this video. I had to break out the cell phone for this one. Okay, so the title of this video is going to be My Bike Won't Start. Checking for spark. I just got this bike in. It's a 2009, I think, Ninja 250. Another one. This will be the fourth Ninja 250 in 6 months. And it wouldn't start. Got nothing. Checked compression. It had compression. I never cleaned the carburetors, but I was using starting fluid, so that shouldn't have made any difference at all. And anyway, I ended up checking for spark, and I had no spark. This right here is my spark tester. I know everybody doesn't have one of those, but what you can do is pull a spark plug out, put it in the end of your spark plug boot here, and well, I use a pair of pliers. I don't like to hold it by hand because I don't want to get shocked, but hold it up against the head of the engine and crank it over, and you should see little sparks come out between the electrodes on the spark plug. And well, anyway, I did that with my spark tester here, and I had nothing. So you start checking around. If you've got absolutely no spark at all, first place you want to check is your coils. Alright, and that's the thing that your spark plug attaches to. You know, you got the plug goes into the boot here, and the wire comes down to this thing here that has two wires going to it. This is a coil. This thing is what actually creates the spark. The wires going to it create a signal. Alright, the way this works is it has 12 volts all the time. Okay, and when the ignition module grounds it, it makes a spark. Alright, and then of course the spark goes out to the spark plug. So what you want to do is check for power here. And on this particular bike, the red wire should have 12 volts all the time. And mine did. Okay? So I said, well, what the heck's going on? Maybe it's a coil. The way you test a coil is by leaving the power wire on there all the time, and you unhook the signal wire here. And like I said, the way this works is it just grounds it. So what I did is I took a test lead, and I hooked one end of it to block the engine here, the fins, the same place that I have my spark tester hooked up. Alright, and I took the other end of it, and I just kept, you kind of rapidly touch the signal post there and ground it real fast, and you'll see spark in your little spark tester or on your spark plug or whatever. Now what that did is confirm that my coil was good. Okay, so the coil is good, and I've got 12 volts going to it, which means it has to be a signal problem, because when I give it sort of a fake signal, it works. And I mean, a lot of people, the first thing they'll tell you is to go ahead and change your ignition box, your CDI, or your igniter, or whatever the hell you want to call it. And on the Ninja 250, this is it. Alright, when all the fairings are on it, it mounts about right here, right below this lock assembly. And I'll be honest, man, I thought that's what it was too. I thought it was the ignition box, I really did. So what I did was I took another Ninja 250 and I took that ignition box out and I plugged it in and I tried to start it, and it fired right up with no problems at all. It didn't hesitate, not one bit. So we were back to square one. You know, what the heck is going on? It's not a control problem. Alright? So it has to still be some sort of signal problem. Is it a broken wire? There's a separate wire going to each coil, a separate signal wire. And they both come into the ignition box down here at different places. And to think that both wires were broken at the same exact moment by the same exact thing is just, it's kind of iffy. But to be sure, I did a continuity test anyway. On this side the wire is green, okay, on the other side it's black. And I came down to this connector and I found the matching wires, and I set my little ohm meter up here for a continuity test, and I did it, and it turns out that they were fine. So then what the heck, you know, could it possibly be? It has to be an input problem. Okay, and now the signal that the ignition box deciphers originates from your crank sensor or your coil pickup or whatever the hell you want to call it. Okay, and it on most bikes lives on the left side of the engine near the stator. And you'll notice on motorcycles there's two wires coming out of there, and they look just like this. They come out of the bottom of that cover and they wrap around the engine and they end up plugging in somewhere. And one's usually a 3 or a 4 wire. That one is your actual stator. That creates power once the engine's running. We're not concerned with that right now. This is the one we want. 2 wires. I've seen 3-wire ones, but mainly they're 2 wires. That's the one. That's your crank sensor. This is the one that creates the signal, tells everything when to work. This is your input for that ignition box, for your coils, for all of it. Alright? And there's 2 ways that you can test it. Okay? You can set your little ohm meter up for 4 ohms for a continuity test. Okay? And you can unplug this and put 1 lead in each side and do continuity test. And they tell you, the book tells you that you're supposed to have around 115 to 130 ohms. And I plugged it in like that, and I'll be damned if it didn't say 125 ohms. It was perfect. Okay? There's also another way to test it. Alright? Once you have those in there, and it's unplugged from here, and in a way that they'll say, you turn your key on, and you crank over the engine. Hold on, I missed a step. Before you turn your key on, switch your ohm meter here to AC volts. Okay? To the 200 range. That means it can go up to 200 volts. You will never pull that much voltage from a pickup coil. But you set it there because that's the lowest setting we got. And if you got a lower setting, go for it. Anyway, so that's set to AC. You still got them hooked one side of it into each wire here. This is unplugged. Alright, to where you're just checking this side of the circuit, the side that goes into the engine itself, and not the side that hooks to the bars of the bike. And you crank the engine, and what you should see is just a couple of volts, not much, AC power. Okay, I forgot exactly how much it was, but it's just a few volts. It's not a lot. Okay, and the advantage to this test over an ohms test is that it's a loaded circuit test. It actually tells you under a load if the circuit is working. Now, what I found is mine was not. I had 0 voltage while cranking. So, I went to this side of the engine, and you'll see all the bolts there on the floor. I pulled off my stator cover, and I started looking around. Looking for broken wires, looking for this, looking for that. If I couldn't find any broken wires, I was just going to replace that pickup sensor, or crank sensor, or pickup coil, or whatever you want to call it. Well, turns out what I found was that I had a broken wire. So I soldered it up, and I plugged everything back together, and I turned the key, and behold, I had power. I had good spark. It's a real strong spark. Now, most of the time it will not be that complicated for you, I promise. A lot of the time what I find on these coils, let's get in here, okay, where they plug into the bike here, and on this side here, they corrode, and it creates a really bad connection. You take this off, you clean it with some sandpaper, you put it back, and it's fine. The same thing on either end of the spark plug wire itself. It just pushes into the coil here. When you pull this out, nip just a tiny bit, just maybe 1/4 of an inch off there, just enough so you get good clean wire, and then shove it back in there, and do the same thing on the other side, on this side here with the boot. And if you got a misfire or something, a lot of times that'll take care of it if it's a spark issue. But I wish I could show you more. I should have had the camera on the whole time. I apologize for that. But that's the process that I use. Hopefully that helps somebody. I know it's sort of a vague video. I apologize. If I run into this again, I'll have it on. Right now I got a customer waiting for this bike, so I really don't have a whole heck of a lot of extra time to mess around with it. But anyway, hopefully this helps somebody. Go ahead and if it did, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share the video, leave a comment, tell me about your story, tell me about your bike, man. Anyway, take care, everybody.
Beep, beep.